you're trying to grow your business and it's not where you want to be, today we're going to have some real business talk on what is actually going on. If you are new here, welcome. I'm Luisa Zhou, and this channel is all about helping you build your own business to create true freedom, impact, and abundance. Everything I share with you is backed by my own experience and proven. None of it is theory or what I think should work. So with that, today I'm going to help you dissect the 4 main questions/areas to think through to identify what's going on in your business if it's not growing, if it's stuck, or you're just not getting the results that you want. With that, let's jump right in. The first area or first question that you want to think through, just imagine we're having this conversation and I'm essentially coaching you on this, is do you really know what the problem is? This seems like a dumb moment, but you would be amazed how many people trying to grow their businesses at all various points. I've helped people start their businesses from scratch, grow to 6 figures, grow to 7 figures, scale to multiple 7 figures, everything in between, how this comes up over and over. You've got to know what the problem is before you can solve it. And so before you can do that, really what it comes down to is identifying. In an online business especially, there are basically 3 main problems, and that's it. The first problem is, do you have an offer that can convert? Do you have an offer that, and this includes a few things. First of all, is your offer something that people want? If you're trying to sell something that you feel super passionate about, but people don't want, it's not going to work. Sometimes it's just a matter of tweaking the marketing or messaging or positioning, but you've got to make sure you're selling something that's not just about you, but about something that people actually want to pay for. The second thing that you want to think through is the way that I'm able to deliver this something that can be systematized? Or if I'm selling coaching, is it something that right now is just kind of really one-off? I get on a call, I talk, I kind of do whatever I can, and this is really not scalable. And then, do I have a system for selling it so that when people come in, they find me, they learn about my offer, and they're able to buy? Do I have some sort of system, or is it more kind of like, well, I hope someone will find me, I hope someone will care enough to buy from me, and that's how I grow my business every month? So you want to be thinking through, do you have all of that? If not, then what or are all of these pieces missing? And if so, that needs to be in place. The second main area that comes through is traffic. I would say after you've gotten the fundamentals that we just covered down, this is the area that the majority of businesses struggle with. How do you get new leads to your business, new eyeballs, finding your website, learning about your services, joining your audience? And so there are many ways to do this. It's about identifying what's the best traffic source for you. Do you have a consistent traffic source, or are you just posting on social media and hoping people are going to find you? Do you have something that is scalable, whether it's through scalable because of teamwork, like growing your content and driving search traffic? Or is it something that's scalable because you can scale a paid system, like with paid traffic or with having a sales team do prospecting for you? Whatever that looks like, depending on your business and your offer and your audience, you've got to have consistent traffic. So if you've got a really great offer, you know it's amazing, but people aren't coming to you and finding you every month, that would be why you're not making the sales that you want and you're not growing. Then the final piece is cash flow. I will tell you, there is kind of an overflow of advice on how to offer payment plans and how you should offer just amazing payment plans to help people be able to afford the coaching and the courses that you're selling, or whatever it is that you're selling. I have a different opinion on this. Yes, that does help, but really payment plans are more for a convenience for your clients, so that if they don't want to put out the cash at once, it helps them better manage their cash flow to be able to pay you on a payment plan, then you do that. So when you shift that perspective versus I need to offer payment plans so that more people can afford me, what that does is it allows you to position your payment plan so that you're not going for like the cheapest, longest payment plan. You're going for a payment plan that helps your ideal clients manage their cash flow more conveniently, which allows you to have shorter payment plans and more cash coming in. And so you have to understand, sales is not the same thing as cash. You have to understand that came out a little bit weird, but there's a big difference between sales and cash is essentially what I'm saying. Sales, you could make $5,000 in sales, but if you've got a 5-month, $1,000 a month payment plan, that's only $1,000 in cash. If you are operating your business as, okay, I've made $5,000 in sales, that's $5,000 I can afford to spend on my business this month. That's not how you want to be thinking about it. Now, there is a time and place for that kind of thinking, but for the majority of businesses doing less than, I would say, at least low multiple 7 figures, if not more, that's not something you need to be thinking about. So that's the first area. Identify the problem. It most likely falls into one of those 3 categories, and then solve the right problem first. The second area that I see keeping people stuck is this question I want to ask you. Are you potentially hiding from the thing that you need to do? I'm going to give you 2 really common examples that I see of this. The first is when you're earlier on in your business and you've heard before, to build a business, it takes connecting with your audience. It takes connecting with human beings as a human being. It's not about how fancy your website looks, how amazing your copywriting is, how amazing your emails are. And yet, I get it, I've been there, because it's easier to hide behind your computer and not put yourself out there and work on your emails and your copy and your website. You can put off the thing that actually you need to do. This is the reason why I would say it took me about 2 years of trying to build my first ever online business, 2 extra years that I had to stay in my job way back when I was starting, before I actually said, okay, this is enough. This is not working. I'm going to stop hiding. I'm going to actually go out there and talk to potential clients. And it wasn't that complicated. It wasn't like I had to be salesy or go out there and sell myself. It was just, hey, let me go online, find people on social media and help them for free. And then let me learn about my audience, build my relationships and reputation a little bit, and then talk to people who want to hire me and get more than the free stuff that I'm giving. It didn't end up being that scary, but taking that first step, I have to say it was one of the scariest things that I have ever done, but it was what needed to be done. So are you potentially doing something like that? The other common time I see this happening is when you've gotten your business doing pretty well. Maybe you're at 5 figures, 6 figures, maybe even low multiple 6 figures. And you realize, okay, I've done all I can by myself. It's time for me to grow my business and get some support. But it feels really scary to hire that support. Oh my gosh, what if it cuts into my profit? What if I can't hire the right person? It's going to be harder to train them initially because I have to then teach them how to do this thing myself. So let me just put it off a little bit. And then because you do that, you stay stuck because you can't grow, because you can't take on more work yourself, you can't outsource it, and so your income is capped. If it's one of those situations, or if it's something else where there's something that you need to do, but you keep on hoping that there's something else that you can do instead and just putting off the thing that's gonna shift the growth for you, it's time to sit down and have that honest conversation with yourself and identify what that is. Put aside the time, just get it done. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. It won't be so scary once it's done. It just feels scary in the moment. I promise every successful entrepreneur before you has done it. There's absolutely no reason you can't do it either. So that is area number 2. Area number 3, oh my gosh, this is a really big one. It's one I see so much for pretty much every entrepreneur I work with. And that is, have your expectations been setting you up to fail instead of to succeed? And what I mean by that is that there is so much misinformation out there. And I'm not saying all of it is intentional. Sometimes maybe someone is trying to misinform you. Let me just use that phrase. But other times it's because we just pick up the information that we want to, and we might have a tendency to kind of skip over all the other information that we kind of don't want to be thinking about, which then creates unrealistic expectations in our minds. So I'm going to give you a few examples that I see happen a lot. So using myself as an example, one of the things that I share, and this of course is such a fun story. It's been featured in lots of media publications and online in lots of places, is that when I first started this business, I grew it to over $1 million in sales in less than a year. Now, what I'm always careful to caveat is that it wasn't my first business. It wasn't even my second or my third. It was the result of, at that point, almost a decade of previous business experience, a lot of failures, I had also failed a lot before that in my other online businesses. And it was just not an overnight success by any means. And yet, when people see that, even though I caveat it everywhere I can, what we immediately go to is, oh my gosh, this was an overnight success and that's the way it should be. You've probably thought something like that as well, where you've seen someone, and I've been guilty of this too, where I've seen someone and I've thought, oh my gosh, they've had it so much easier than me. They've had it so much faster. It's just not fair. That's how it should be. Nope. There's always something behind the scenes that they have either told us and we just missed, or they're not sharing the whole story with us. And so that's the kind of expectations that are setting up to fail, where you're kind of measuring against a benchmark that is not realistic or doable. And then you're measuring yourself against it. So of course you're going to fall short and then you become really discouraged. Another example that I want to give, because it's really common, is there's a popular kind of piece of unwisdom, as I like to call it online, that in general, if you're trying to sell something, whatever your audience size, you should be able to estimate that you can sell 1% to that audience. So if you have 100 people, you will make 1 sale. If you have 1,000 people, you will make 10 sales, and so on and so forth. Now, in a lot of cases, that is a fair benchmark. However, there are a lot of exceptions. So a really powerful one that I fell prey to myself was that when I first started, I was selling coaching, then I sold group programs, and then I eventually transitioned into selling courses. And I was really good at selling coaching and group programs because of my unique strategies that I created, because I connect well with people. However, when it was time to sell courses, I had to learn a whole new set of skills. I had to learn copywriting, email marketing, sales, just a whole bunch of things that I hadn't learned as well before, because I'd been talking to people, and that had allowed me to kind of skip over those pieces a little bit. And so I thought, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me, with my business, with my audience, because I wasn't even close to the 1% conversion rate every time I started selling my courses. I was probably like a fraction of that, probably like something like 0.2, 0.3% versus 1%. And, a lot of the people I spoke with, they had fallen prey to that assumption as well, and they hadn't sold courses themselves. And so they were like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. And then as time went on and I gained more experience for myself, I connected with people who'd been doing this for longer. I started realizing, okay, no, that's not true. It's because of all the things I just mentioned. What I had just done is, because I had the wrong expectation, I had gone in thinking there was something wrong with me. Instead, where if I was coaching myself now, I would tell myself back then, aim for, like 0.1, 0.2% conversion rate if all you're doing is selling a course and sending emails to a sales page. And then from there, measure all your improvement in your copywriting, your sales pages, your offer, your audience relationship, your branding, all of that. And from there, seek to improve, versus aim for something that pretty much no one starts with and beat yourself up for many, many years on what is missing. All right, so it could be that you are doing well. You're actually not as stuck as you think you are. Although, to be honest, I think there's always room for improvement for all of us. But the expectation reframe makes a really big difference. So make sure that you've got the right expectations for that, for wherever you are. That's area number 3. The fourth area that I would coach you on and have you think through, or advise you to think through, you don't have to do anything, is, are you doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results? So that's a popular quote attributed to Einstein. I actually don't know if that is his quote or not, but that's what we're going to go with, where if you do that, that's the definition of insanity. And that's kind of true, right? If nothing changes and you're just doing the same thing over and over, why would you expect different results? A really common example that I see of this is people who are wanting to grow their businesses, and they are relatively newer in their business. And so they are growing by posting on social media, because that's what everyone tells you to do. I have some different opinions, but we'll save that for another day. That's what everyone tells you to do. And they're posting, and they have like 20 people on their social media following. And they're wondering why their business is not growing any faster. But they do it every single day for who knows how long. Now, the first thing is, if you're doing that, kudos to you because you've got the most important thing covered. You're being resilient, you're showing up every day, and you're being determined. Frankly, that's 90% of the battle. Now it's just about channeling that into a more effective strategy for you. And going back into the first part of what we talked about today, identifying what the actual problem is. If, for example, you're doing this, and this applies to really anything, I'm just using this example because it's such a common one. If you are sending the same emails to your email list and hoping that your audience is it's going to grow itself. If you're posting on social media to the same 20 people all the time, same 20, 100, you get the idea. And hoping that something's going to change and you're going to get more sales all of a sudden, right? What's that problem? The problem is not that you're not being consistent enough or not showing up enough. It's that you don't have enough traffic. Or maybe you have an offer that doesn't convert. And so it ties back into, okay, if I'm doing the same thing, it's not about giving up. It's not that this strategy won't work for me. Frankly, every strategy that has worked for someone else can work for you. It's not that that's the difference. It's the application of it and the principles behind it. So understanding that, it's not that you're not cut out for whatever it is that you want to do. It's thinking through all of these things. And so if you think through all of this, and then you realize, okay, I have a traffic problem. I don't have a consistency problem. I don't have a social media doesn't work for me problem. That's never the case for anybody. Then how do I go out there and get more traffic? And so you see that shifts what you're doing to the things that are going to actually help you get results. So with that though, that's some real business talk. I don't like when people just do a video and say, hey, you've got this. Let me give you some basic principles. Let me motivate you, just work hard. I'm all about, okay, that's great. I agree with all of that for sure. But let's sit down and identify what's actually working or not working so that you can build a real business, because that's what we're about in this channel. That's what I'm all about. So with that, if you found that helpful, I have another video for you that I think you're probably going to find really helpful too. And it's the 3 pieces that you need to be able to build a 6 and multiple 6-figure coaching business. So if that's something that you're working on, you're wanting to build a service-based business and scale it to 6 and multiple 6 figures, it's actually often a lot simpler than you might think. I've helped a lot of people do this, and that's some good news for you that it is often simpler. So I break it down for you inside this video, which I'm going to put right here. So if you want that, go ahead and check that out, and I will see you in that video.